This is Middle Class Matt from don'tbuythehype.blogspot.com, and I am the sports genius. I'm covering today the NBA. I want to talk about my picks in the NBA draft coming up June 28th. So the NBA draft. Now this is something that I really always pride myself in and getting these right. You'll never get all the picks right. I'll miss some. I guarantee you there'll be a player that I don't rate very highly. He'll go on to be a good ball player, and there'll be some that I rate very highly that are bust. That happens with everybody, and that's just the nature of the game. Because there's some people that just have big hearts, and they just play hard, and nobody really can put a value on that. So, first of all, I want to say that I can't believe how many experts get this stuff wrong. I look at Chad Ford on ESPN, who gets paid the big bucks to do this. I don't. I'm just a regular old middle class, average sports fan, and yet I'm thinking I get picks better than them. Another obvious example is Michael Jordan. Now, I don't fault Michael Jordan for picking Kwame Brown as much as I do some of his other picks. Kwame Brown was one that kind of everybody missed it on. And I'm a sucker for a big man. That'll be kind of the theme through all my picks. But Adam Morrison at third when Brandon Roy and Rudy Gay were on the board, that's terrible. If I was in their place, I'd have never made that pick. Some people say, I could coach better than that guy. Probably not. You probably couldn't coach better than him. Because you may think that coach is no good, but he's still probably better than you as a professional coach. But honestly, I could make better picks than Michael Jordan. He took a little short point guard one year when there was a 7'1" Brook Lopez. I believe it was Brook Lopez. 7-footer's a starter in the NBA at center. Starters and center, true 7-footers are hard to come by. He takes a 5'9" point guard. His thinking, totally messed up. But that's a whole different story. I'm a Bobcat fan. I'm frustrated with them. They just hired a coach that baffles me what they're doing with that. So anyway, Chad Ford, for example. I was going to do this blog a few days ago, never got around to it, and Chad Ford had Perry Jones in the top 10. Now he's not in there. Well, I could have told you that. That's simple. This guy had games where he had 2 and 3 points. He didn't show up. So even though he's got a great body, 6'11", big body, athletic, I'm not taking Perry Jones in one of my top picks. He's not even in my top 14. That's what I'm going to do today. My top 14 picks in this year's NBA draft, but it's not according to need. So I'm not saying that the Trailblazers are going to take this player or the Bobcats are going to take this player. I'm saying these are the best 14 players in order. If a team pops up and they need a point guard, but the best player on the board is a power forward, they may take a point guard. I understand that. I'm not going to give a whole lot of detailed explanation. I'm going to try to do that on don'tbuythehype.blogspot.com. I'll list my picks so that you don't have to remember what I'm saying. I'll have that up within the next 24 hours on don'tbuythehype.blogspot.com. So check what day this was published and you'll be able to figure that out. I'm going to run through my picks pretty quickly because a lot of people do 30-minute, sometimes hour shows on the draft. I don't want to do that. So here we go. The obvious number one pick is Anthony Davis. I have my list right here. No way I can remember all this. Is Anthony Davis. Now, Anthony Davis has been said he's the best polished big man since Tim Duncan. I'm not that crazy about him to think he's the Tim Duncan. But I could see him being better than Chris Bosh, and he put up monster stats at Toronto. And I definitely see him as the kind of guy that could average 14 or 15 rebounds, at least 12, and can block 3 or 4 shots a game. And just those kind of rebounding and defense make him a super valuable player. Plus, he has a real motor for a big man. That's so valuable. Speaking of motor for a big man, another guy, and the reason he's my second overall pick is Thomas Robinson from Kansas. Now, Thomas Robinson is 6'9", 6'10", depending on what you look at, 240, 250. He's a monster. He's super athletic. I had sort of seen his game, not his ability, but his game, well, his size too, being like Al Horford. But I've now come to believe he's a lot more athletic than Al Horford. And if he's better than Al Horford, he may be deserving of this second pick. But he plays with a great motor. He's very athletic. Is he the kind of guy, to me, that's going to be a 2010 guy? Not sure that he can score like that. But I see him being like a 12-12 guy and blocking 2 or 3 shots. And a guy like that is super valuable in the NBA. No, he doesn't go out and have the 40-point games that everybody ooh and ahs about. But if you have games where you go out and you get 15 boards and 15 rebounds and 3 or 4 block shots, man, that is helping a team immensely. So I really don't think people can turn down Thomas Robinson at the second spot. I think he's really. I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying the Bobcats should pick him. I'm just saying that he's the second best player according to my evaluation. Andre Drummond's my third. Now this is a real wild card, and this could be a Kwame Brown. This could be the kind where I look stupid for taking him, for saying he's the third best player. But he is a monster. He's 6'11". I believe he has like a 7'5" wingspan. He weighs 275 pounds. I mean, this guy, no one should be able in a few years to physically hold him. He's that big, and he's going to demand double teams. And he seems like the kind of guy, too, that could rebound and block shots because of his size. So I just don't think you can turn down a legit 7-foot type center, big body like that. So I'm putting him at 3. A lot of people have this next guy as their second overall pick, and that's Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. But 6'7" athletes are a dime a dozen. Now this one may be special, and there are some great ones that come along that are those sort of wing players, like Carmelo Anthony, who I don't love but is a great ball player. LeBron James, who is truly great. Kobe Bryant. You know, those typical, 6'7", 6'8" wing players. But there's a lot of those guys that are just tossed around the NBA. Caron Butler, and I can name just a ton of those guys. There's 6'7", and Deshaun Stevenson, and Jason Richardson, Richard Jefferson, all those guys like that. And those guys are good, but I don't know how valuable, because I think you can get a lot of players like that. But I still think Gilchrist, I put him at 4th, because he's such a talented player and very good defensively. Harrison Barnes at 5th. Now this is also a kind of wild card, because he has everything you want in an NBA player. A lot of people said if he'd have left last year, he could have been the first overall pick. I'm not saying I agree with that, I'm just saying that was the talk. 6'8", 230, 240 pounds, big body, probably more like 230. Big body. He's got a great jump shot. Uses the jab step. Not explosive to the hoop, but a good enough athlete. A guy like this guy's built for the NBA. The problem is with Harrison Barnes is that no one knows. He seems to not have. He doesn't always seem to bring his A game, and he seems to sort of pout. I'm a North Carolina fan, and sometimes I see that where it was like some games he would score 10 points, and then some games he scored 25 points. It was really inconsistent. You didn't know what was going on sort of in his mind. So it makes me wonder about him. Now this guy I know least about, but what I've read I like. That's Damian Lillard. And I see him being kind of a poor man's Russell Westbrook. Now I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Westbrook. I'm saying a poor man. But those guys I don't love, even though he's a super athlete, seems like he could be a real baller. I don't love a player like him because to me they're not always the best at building a team around because they take so many shots. That's what Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose get criticized for, and players like Allen Iverson in the past. The 7th player is John Henson. Now, John Henson's not even on a lot of people's top 10s, but the weird thing about him is that to me, he's a poor man's Anthony Davis. Does he have the motor and the heart Anthony Davis? Maybe not, but he's virtually the same player physically. I just can't see that Henson would be like 15th and Davis would be first just because one plays harder and has a better IQ and some intangibles. I mean, those are important, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see that much difference. Next is Tyler Zeller. I don't know how people can turn a talent like Zeller down. A 7-footer who can run the floor, weighs 250-something pounds, who has European-type passing and moves. I see him being, if he could get beside a big guy like DeMarcus Cousins for the Kings or for the Magic, if he could play beside Dwight Howard. I see him being an incredible forward, kind of like a Paul Gasol. And I see him playing in the NBA for at least 12 to 15 years, barring injury, just because of his ability to run the floor and his post moves. Now, he is soft, so that's why a 7-footer like that is not going top 5. But most people don't even have him in the top 10. Next is Kendall Marshall. Kendall Marshall's not the greatest athlete, but he's a big point guard. 6'4", over 200 pounds, or close to 200 pounds. Has some of the best court vision I've seen probably since Chris Paul. I mean, can really, really pass the basketball. And so I think a player like him, if he gets on the right team that's already got some good stars, he could really make an impact. Bradley Beal. A lot of people have him top 5. I just don't love him. He might be somebody I'm totally wrong about because he's so athletic and he's long, 6'4". He's been compared to Eric Gordon. But even if he's Eric Gordon, I don't love Eric Gordon. I wouldn't build a team around Eric Gordon, even though he's a nice piece. So I have Bradley Beal at 10 just because I'm not sure about him yet. I haven't seen enough out of him at Florida to know that he can really be a star. But he is athletic and he should be a good player. I have Terrence Jones from Kentucky. and he is at 11. A solid power forward, maybe can play 3, so I have him at 11. He's a good ball player. Another guy that I love is Royce White. He played at Iowa State. He averaged 13 points, 9.5 rebounds, 5 assists, a block, and a steal. He does everything. He's 6'8", weighs like 275, 280 pounds, bigger than LeBron James. Should be a beast. Nobody can hold him. Now, he has off-the-court problems, and people have criticized him for that. So I'm not sure about that. But I know that this guy's big and strong. He can rebound like a power forward, play defense like a center, got the size of a wing, and can play point guard. I mean, this guy's an all-around player. If a good team gets him, he should be like a great sixth man. So I put him at number 12. Number 13, I have Jared Sullinger. I was going to put him right at like 9 or 10, but his injuries that they've talked about have persuaded me not to do that. And so his injuries scare me, but he is a really... He's a typical like big baby, and like some of the other guys you see out there who are like Carlos Boozer, who are like 6'7", 6'8". They're undersized and they don't have great hops, but they use their big body and they bang and they're fundamentally solid. That's the way I see Sullinger. Poor man's kind of Elton Brand. Now, he's not going to be Elton Brand, but he has that sort of long length and stocky frame. So I have him at 13, still in the top 14. And then Jeremy Lamb, prototypical 2-guard, long, athletic, 6'6", 6'5". So I like him at 14. Now, some of the guys I left out that people may wonder about. There's a center in Illinois I read a little bit about. He's big and long. I just don't know enough about him to put him in my list. He may be good. I didn't see anything in college about him. Austin Rivers. This guy's a 10 or 12-year pro. If anyone gets him outside the lottery, that's a steal. But is he going to be a superstar? I don't think so. Because he's Kobe Bryant sort of ego and prima donna, but he doesn't have that kind of ability. He has a bench player's NBA ability, but he has an attitude like Kobe Bryant. He's going to be confident, he's going to play well, he's going to work hard, but he might be more trouble than he is good, but I still think he's a 10 to 12-year NBA player. Dion Waiters, I saw him play. I think he's going to be a good NBA player. Didn't put him in my top 14,